Happy Tuesday, everyone. Tara Talmadge here alongside Mike Irwin. You know, a lot going on this week with the coaching change at Arkansas. I know we've got a basketball game tonight, but let's start with football. What are you hearing right now? I know there's a lot going on with the coaching search. Who do you think might be up for this job?
Well, I don't think, there's been too many leaks.
Right.
Vegas has already got out some kind of list. I think Mike Norvell is at the top of that list. He's the Memphis coach. That's an obvious choice. I have no idea of the interest level on either party. Lane Kiffin is on there. Mike Leach is on there down a little bit. There's a lot of other guys on the list. It's interesting, the SEC kind of internet media and maybe even the SEC network, they're all pulling for Leach.
Yeah.
And I think they want him in there because they feel like it will be an injection into the SEC, interest, the way he says a lot of things. If he's in this league, Leach will become very popular, and he will get Arkansas into the SEC network. That's a common complaint among Razorback fans is you never see hardly anything about Arkansas football on the SEC network, and I think for obvious reasons right now. But Leach would get you back on there with some of the comments which would help recruiting.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about all those things. Then you've got kind of ex-players, and the popular guy with the ex-players is Sam Pittman, because he was very popular when he was here under Brett Bielema. Those two had a falling out, and Pittman went to Georgia. But people that know him say he really wants to be here. He likes it here. He and his wife have a lake house down in Hot Springs, and they like living in Arkansas. And so, there are people that know that, ex-players, and they're pushing for him. And there's some traction with the fans over that. And then Barry Lunny, I think, is after that press conference, he's kind of the popular guy with the fans.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a source that I have today. I was talking to him about possibilities, and he said, well, with Lunny, because there's this talk about trying to have more Arkansas people on the coaching staff. He said with Lunny, he could maybe talk Sam Pittman into coming back. Then you go get Butch Davis, who, was from Springdale, and bring him back in here as defensive coordinator. Then you go get Tim Horton, and bring him in as wide receivers coach. And then you could go get Rhett Lashley and bring him from SMU as the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And you'd have all this Arkansas connection. So that would be his dream team, is to get Barry Lunny and then have Lunny pick a staff that has a lot of Arkansas people on the staff.
Which I understand why people would
want
that.
Sure, absolutely.
But, doesn't mean that's the
No, it doesn't. And the point I'm trying to make on Twitter is, and I've listed guys like Frank Broyles, and this is another sport, but Eddie Sutton, Nolan Richardson, Dave Van Horn. All of those people are from other states.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to have a guy from Arkansas. What you need is somebody that comes in here and immediately embraces Arkansas's culture.
Right.
Some people say that proof that Chad Morris didn't do that was the fact that his family didn't move here. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think there were reasons for that, but I don't think they understood how that would be perceived.
Yeah.
But that wasn't, I think, the reason he had problems. I think there were other issues.
There's clearly some other issues.
Yeah, it's important to hire somebody that will come in here like Eric Musselman, who had no previous connections to Arkansas, other than he'd come in as an assistant coach at LSU one time and thought Bud Walton Arena was awesome. But he's come in with his whole family. Now his wife, I should say, no previous connections. His wife does. She has relatives here. But he himself had no previous connections, and they've come in and totally embraced the area. If you'll remember the day he had his press conference, and we were all down there doing live shots.
Yeah.
And we were driving back around 5 o'clock, and we started to pull into our studios here, and who do we see walking down Dixon Street?
Down the street?
That whole family. And they were looking around, enjoying the sights and trying to figure out a place to eat. And so
just got here.
He has really embraced, and I think that's what you need in a football coach, is somebody that will come in and embrace Arkansas's culture if they don't already have a connection to it.
Yeah. Just looking at some of your comments right now, several are saying, please no Leach. I understand your argument.
Yeah, but there are plenty of people that do want him. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, he's an offensive guy. You may not like, some people like kind of crazy things he says, others don't. But I promise you, you would get a lot of traction around the SEC, and it would help in recruiting to have him. The thing with Mike Leach is you have to make sure he's got a good defensive coordinator because he doesn't mess with defense. I think Hunter Yurachek, if he hired somebody like that, would have to go out and find a defensive coordinator for him because he doesn't care about that. He wants to have a guy that's doing that, and I'm over here with the offense. But again, there are people that love him and people don't like him at all.
Norvell, obviously, is a name that keeps popping up as well. Someone that Arkansas apparently looked at before hiring Chad Morris as well. So it's understandable that name would come up again. I don't know if that's really an option for them anymore, though. So.
Well, there's some questions of whether he's interested. A lot of people think he might be interested in the Florida State job, which is still open. So there is. It's just hard to say right now. It's way too early. I'm not getting any sort of buzz about what First of all, Hunter Yurachek put people in charge of that. He's working with a search firm only to vet some names, just to have them do some background checks. And he's got John Fagg working with that group, and so they're doing kind of background vetting. But I think if he had really started meeting with people and going and talking to people, we'd know about that. And I don't think it would happen for this simple reason. It is just not kosher to go in and meet with coaches in season.
Oh, yeah.
There's still about 2 weeks left in the college football season. You might be having some conversations with agents, but I don't think you're going to have any direct sort of conversations with football coaches right now. I think you would have to wait for about 3 more weeks before that starts.
Way too early, but I have to get your take on this one. Bobby Petrino has popped up on this timeline so many times. Mm-hmm. What would you think about the possibility of that ever happening?
I don't think it will happen.
Yeah.
Because of the university. I think I have no idea because he's never talked about it, what Hunter Yurachek would think about that. Mm-hmm. But you've got to understand something here. You had a guy that was having an affair with a woman who wasn't his wife, who then hired her, and there were multiple applicants for that job. Mm-hmm. And she got that job over them. That's lawsuit city. First of all, they had to pay her off to avoid getting her to sue, and then they sat back with their fingers crossed and hoped that none of those candidates came in and sued, and they didn't. But you're not bringing somebody like that back. It's just not going to happen.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit about basketball. We will be at the game tonight. It is Arkansas versus North Texas. Second game for Eric Musselman's first one. Got off to a pretty good start. What are your thoughts on this one?
This will be the best team that they played so far. These guys are 1-1, but they blew out Oklahoma Christian 79-40, and then they played VCU, which is ranked 25th right now, and that was a 59-56 game. They lost it, but lost by 3 points. We always have to be concerned with Arkansas this year with the height disadvantage. These guys have a 6'10 center and 2 6'8 guys, so they're going to have an advantage inside. It's interesting that what you have going on with Arkansas right now, and I think it will happen all season long, is Eric Musselman is at work with any deficiencies he sees. And one of the deficiencies that goes all the way back to last year would be turnovers, and turnovers caused by charging. That you're either in transition, and we've seen that happen over and over again the last 2 years and some this year, or even off the dribble and running your regular offense, we've seen guys have problems with that. So I think it's called Ginobili drills.
Yeah.
After a player that had a very unique style of doing things, and they're doing these Ginobili drills in practice that allow you to, for instance, go around somebody that's set up and still make the layup. And so they're doing that, and he's hoping that will cut down on the turnovers. Now, some of the obvious things we've seen, Jalen Harris in that first game, he hit 2 3-pointers. This guy couldn't hit a 3 last year to save his life. I mean, he hurt him last year trying to shoot threes and missing. And he was, I think, 2 for 2 from 3-point range. Yeah. So, they were asked, what's up with that? And basically, from the time that Musselman got here, Jalen Harris has been going over in the morning and doing extra work shooting, sometimes by himself, sometimes with graduate assistants, sometimes there's a couple of players out there. But some of the other players on the team have said he really, really worked on this. Yeah. This didn't just start. It started all the way back last spring, and he's working and working and working, so we see some early results of that. Then we see this Isaiah Joe transition. Remember, one of the best shooters in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And expected to be their leading scorer, but that's pretty much what he was last year. You feed the ball to him, and he shoots from deep.
Yeah.
Well, what we've seen this year is a completely different guy. He's still shooting threes, but he's dribbling and scoring off the dribble. He's doing pump fakes and going in and dunking the ball.
Yeah.
He's getting assists. So what was up with that? Well, once again, there was an emphasis on that. They've been working on that, and working on that because they want him to be a multi-dimensional player. And he wants to go to the NBA, and that's going to make him a much better NBA player if he can do all those things.
You talk about those guys meeting up early. They call it the Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club.
So clearly that time is paying off, but that's going to do it for our live feed right now. For Mike Irwin, I'm Tara Talmadge. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.